For you people on tape, still going to try to get to going through some of the kairos that have just been read, but the last few nights they have been aimed sort of at one general direction anyway. And I'd like you to consider far beyond any aspect of philosophy, as you might, if you were awake at all through Philosophy 101, if they made you take it in college, forget all that, because what I was going to try and bring out that's been interspersed throughout these kairos of late is in religion, it's in common sense, it's in what seems to be the nature of life, and that is, why are there things that cannot be explained? And according to what sort of institutions that you seem to be directed by, the kinds of collective wisdom that seems to be your primary source of intellectual and spiritual inspiration. According to that, there are 2 or 3 primary answers, none of which are satisfying. Not because I say so, but they're not satisfying to those involved, such as the religious answer. All they can do is say, well, we can't really explain why things are like this, whatever complaint you got, or whatever question they can't answer, and they have to say, by and by. Or they can say, we should be able to understand it, but in some way we have run amok. And philosophers would be inclined to say, well, we should be able to answer this, but we just haven't progressed that far. Or else they can, their own version, they can claim to be anti-religious or agnostic, but they'll turn right around and say, well, the reason we can't figure out these answers are because of, and then they fill it in the blank. We don't live the proper life. We're not charitable. We're not reasonable. We're still too irrational. But consider, with that surely sufficient intro, the whole fact that regardless of what approach you seem to have taken yourself, that there are things, or at least one thing, that no one can answer. Now you can take the one-shot approach or spread it out. Why are we here? That's normally religious and a little philosophical. But all the answers of why we can't understand this, why we ask this question, we're intelligent enough to ask this question, but why it can't be answered. And as always, as I said, if they looked at it as being a closed system, then there is a flaw somewhere in the system. Western religion, some others say that man sinned, that man made the gods mad, and therefore they cursed him. Philosophy wants to say, well, within this system, we are still progressing, and we have simply not reached the point to where our reach or our grasp will go as far as our intellectual reach and hunger drives us. May I suggest for all of you who are directly minded, that could actually think in some ways, and possibly it is, with a great deal of leniency insofar as the collective wisdom. May I put that simply, would you please? Those who can think simply. That's simple enough. There is a quite easy reason, and it's so easy that if you say it, no one will hear it, so even I am about to fall back into another, don't say it, yes, another, parable. Picturization. It's as though man intellectually is blind and is trying to describe colors. How's that? But see, now up to that point, put a comma there. We'll take a parenthetical break. Up until there, to that spot, that would fit right in with philosophy and all decent religions. They go, see? Because the gods made us blind. Or the philosophers would say, I know what you're saying. It's just that our eyesight has not developed enough for us to see all of the colors. That is, the unanswerable questions. I ask you to let me finish. Well, go ahead then. I just wanted to stop in the middle and point out that at least I know where we're going. Here's the rest of it. It is as though a blind man, back to man intellectually wanting to know what's going on, or if you're still in the Dark Ages or in the 1940s, spiritually, wanting to know what's going on, and no one can answer it, including those in charge of, yes, we're here to answer it. You know the answer to that? No, but it's good that you ask us. At least you got a no from a professional. I mean, it's not like you just went and asked some stranger. Professional non-knowledge. Back to where we were. It is as though, literally, that it's a blind man asking or trying to discuss the nature of colors. Now we're going to finish this time, except for this. It was those same men from day one who invented, single-handedly, by themselves, inside this system, that invented everything connected with color. They invented the electromagnetic spectrum. They invented every color. They invented the eyeball. They invented it all. Now think about it. Does me doing that help? There is why, as simple as, or as complex, there is why man cannot answer the questions that he can propose. You don't have to look to any outside guides. But here, if that wasn't enough, I was going to drag in one of the Kairos tonight that he sort of slipped in on you, is even stranger or plainer. Everything in the secondary world must be explained. Do you realize, to take our description of the primary and the secondary world, everything that is absolutely required, and people will continue to write in and ask, that want to play around with the game, well, exactly what is a primary and secondary do you mean by that? And it would seem to be fairly simple if you looked at it just on the basis that the primary would be that which would absolutely be required to just keep you alive. And that doesn't say much, because ordinary people say, oh, I know what you mean, but even though if you were alive in a coma, on life support machines, you can't call that being alive in the human sense, and yet you would be primarily alive. But I have presented to you the rhetorical approach to consider that you would ask yourself, well, could I live without this? Could I literally live without not just a new Corvette, but any car? Could I actually live? Well, yeah. Could I live if there was no public transportation? Well, yeah, I could. Could I live if I had to walk everywhere I went? All right, yeah, I guess I could live. And you can keep on, and people don't particularly care for it. Here is another that Kyrut and I have been saving. I've already said it to you, but I guess I was trying to apologize beforehand about what a dirty trick this is, assuming anybody sees it. The primary world exists, and you know what to do with it. Everything in the secondary world, everything that man has invented. Think about this. I just want to say it and then close down for the night. No matter how complex, no matter now how almost inescapably intertwined to ordinary life it is, automobiles, electronics, if you suddenly fell upon a strange planet and you saw, think whatever it is, the most basic, necessary part to civilized existence, and there it is, that some humans created and you were suddenly dropped there, somebody's got to tell you once what the hell it is and what it's supposed to do. Nobody has to tell you what food is. Screwing, sleeping, getting out of the rain, looking after yourself. Nobody has to. But the first time you're confronted with something a little beyond the primary level, like somebody holds up an oyster. That's an old joke. Well, the joke used to be, the beginning of civilization, you got to figure out who was the first person that ever went, yeah, I'll try that. That was I couldn't resist. That was too subtle. It probably got some of you off the point. Let's put it another way. Let's put nowadays, without any degree of cynicism or criticism whatsoever, let's assume that right now we could not live without computers. Even us recording this, well, everybody knows now. Let's assume that right now, us, people watching this in the Western world, that right now life as you know it, and we're not criticizing, we're not saying you should be like, but let's say that you could not live without computers. Let's just say that. But now, maybe you saw you got it, but I'm telling you, this is extremely dirty. Try and do this. You can do this. Imagine that you were suddenly, that everything else being equal, that you got the kind of mind you got, you're as sharp as you are, except you've never heard of a computer or anything about it, and you were suddenly dropped on this new planet. And there was a computer, just whatever the cutting edge of computer science is right now, there it is on this strange planet, and you're dropped there and you looked at it. Somebody would have to tell you, it might only take a few seconds, but somebody would have to tell you what it's for. You would never, it is not self-evident. And some other human, and this is even getting dirty, you could say, well, if I sit around there and food with it, and you say everything else is equal, and I had the kind of background I do, and just I had not been exposed to this, I'd finally figure it out. No, you're missing it. You're missing the point. We're not talking about how smart you are. We're not talking about computers. We're talking about the fact that the secondary world doesn't exist operationally until somebody that already knows whatever it is, what a car is, what you do with an oyster. You don't pick it up and throw it at somebody, you eat it. And you say, eat it? And of course, maybe you try it and love it. But the first time somebody says, well, you plug it in and turn it on. And then it does stuff. And perhaps just that fast you understand it. But that fast is the secondary world. That fast is every creation myth in the world. That fast is the beginning of all religions. And that fast is where man's mind goes, wait a minute, I've got questions. I've got serious questions. But wait a minute, who can answer it? And the answer is, nobody. Because man invented it. Wait a minute, if man invented the computer, but you say that somebody's got to say, all right, plug that in and turn it on. Yes? It must be explained. But the secondary world must be explained. And if you have a unconditional view by now of what the secondary world is, you do understand that includes everything that is based on, that is connected to speech, which includes religion, which includes science, which includes all morality, which includes all social mores. It includes history. It includes all religion. And it includes almost everything, to take it back crude again, except sex and sleeping, just that which you could do mutely. Mutely, not mootly. Mutely. Everything beyond that is the secondary world. I don't care what it is. There's no offense to it. That includes religion. It includes morality. It includes friendship. It includes anything that requires talk. And but now I bet a lot of you will go, But now back to what I was trying to point out tonight. Not only does it require talk, it does not operate. You cannot operate individual. This is not a widespread philosophical dissertation on it. It's that the individual cannot make any sense out of the secondary world, although it may be that fast, until another human, until somebody explains that's a computer, that's a car, that's a bus, get on it, and you don't have to walk. What a concept. You can sit down and go from here to there. The subtle, dirty part is you could almost, if you tried to take this, if you were using your ordinary brain, back to my picture, that they drop you on a strange planet. And you know everything that you know now, you're just as learned, sophisticated, etc., except you have no idea of what transportation is. And a bus comes along, a train, an automobile, a motorcycle. And you're inclined to say, well, wait a minute. If I knew everything else, I could put that together. Some way I'd figure it out. Yeah, you're missing it. It would not operate, it would not exist operationally until somebody said, when that thing stops over here, let's say they're pointing at a bus, and it opens up, go in, and you can sit down. So you know all this. You know the words go in, you know what a door is, you know sit down. You say, go in there and sit down. Are you going across town? Yeah. Go in, when the next one comes by and opens, go in there and sit down, and it'll take you there. You mean I don't have to walk? No. I don't have to crawl. I don't have to lay down and roll over. No. Go in there and sit down, and it'll take you there. When you look around, you know when you get there, yeah, I got the address. Well, when you see the address get there, get off. They'll stop and open the door. And it could be you could play that like, well, Jesus, I should have figured that out, but you wouldn't. That's not the point. Does anyone find that dirty? Does anyone find that revealing the fact that it literally is true? And an ordinary person, I guess I could make them see some of that. And as always, it's not because this is so complex, that this is so mystical that they don't fool with it. So they don't seem particularly use in it. Because you get some ordinary people to hear that and go, well, you mean I spent 20 minutes listening to you talk about, that's the point? Except for this. I hope that Perky Proctor's not here to slap our face. But that, may I suggest to you, friends, Romans, Catholics, Jews, everybody, that explains everything. That is, that the secondary world must be explained or it won't operate individually. Until somebody tells you, well, hey, that's a church. Well, hey, that's a friend. Or hey, that's a no-no. It is not just machinery. I just picked up buses and computers. It's everything in the secondary world. It is everything that you do that your dog doesn't, let's say. All of that requires an explanation. Then you're left, if you carried it that far, with a kind of unanswerable question again, is because if you carried that and you did see some significance, or if you were trying to think about it, then you say, well, wait a minute. Then somewhere there had to be an Adam. There had to be an Adam or an Eve somewhere that the first person went, well, my God, I have invented a Ferrari. I guess at least I ought to stick around here so that my children, I can tell them what a car is, or they'll be sitting here the rest of their life looking at it thinking, how do we eat this son of a bitch? Or, knowing my children, probably one of them will try to date it. So then you guys saw it, there had to be an origin somewhere. There had to be a great Edvardo Ferrari, or whatever his name was. In other words, a God had to say, well, let there be cars. And he had to stick around to say, all right, you guys, get in that thing and drive it. Don't try to eat it. Don't try to sleep in it. I mean, you can, but use it to get around. One more time. The secondary world, everything that is unique to man. The distinction. You don't have to just always think about sex and sleeping and just keeping the primary physical body of man alive. It is this. The distinction is, if it is singular to man, if it is the secondary world, the world of facts, then whatever it is, be it machinery, be it a thing, be it an operation, a service, is it must be explained. Can I ask those of you who are interested to consider one more time, think of all of the wonderful, marvelous things in the life of man that makes life worthwhile, just at any level, whatever your hobbies are, whatever interests you in life. And then consider this. As great as it is, let's say that you have a fascinating, just an overwhelming love of music, of literature, of art. And to you it's just, I wouldn't want to live were it not for art. Were it not for music, I don't know, it takes so much out of life, I wouldn't be interested. You consider it to be, or a religion. You consider it to be of such importance that you accept it as being an indigenous part of life. I mean, if you were questioning about it, I'm sure that you might not say indigenous. You might want to slap somebody's face. You would understand that, well, yeah, you're right. Art is something that no one person invented. A religion is certainly, if you're a religious person, so that's not something a man invented. But consider this. No matter that it seems to be as much a part of your individual life as breathing is, you're on weird ground once you see it. If it's that important, and even if you would say, well, it is almost, or you might want to say it is, not almost, that it is intrinsic to being alive, to being a human, at least at this time, at this place, in this part of the universe, that just to grow up, to be born and to be a human, you're not taught art. I mean, sure, you can go study it, I know all that, but you're not taught a love of art. You're not taught that, well, art is this. Or you're not taught that music, that you can't tell the difference. A tree fell, or 14 dinosaurs had a wreck on a freeway, and you went, well, that's a lot of noise. And then somebody says, yes, but listen over here. And you go, well, that sounds like different. And they say, well, that's Brahms. That's music. And you go, But an ordinary person thinks it is in some way, I would know it when I heard it. No one told me to like music. I have been liking music. My mother will vouch for this. That even when I was a little tyke, before I could really talk, music would come in the air, and I would shake my little booty. The secondary world does not exist. No secondary affair exists until it is explained. If that be the case, how can you explain the explanation of the secondary world? How can an ordinary mind, an ordinary blind man, but an ordinary mind, expect that my question can be answered? Sir, you invented the question. Oh, no, don't play with me. No, I was born with this question. I assume you mean a serious question. Yes. I want to know, where does God live? Where do I go when I die? If this is the kind of question, nobody taught me that. Okay. I guess we have sullied the decent moral airwaves or cable waves. If you went much further than that, I don't know, some of you might go, Holy Mother, I see what he's talking about. We don't want that. We'll change the subject. We got several minutes. One, I don't think Kyrute, I know he didn't. He didn't underline and emphasize the word. No offense to the reader, but this is, I wanted you to hear this one. And Kyrute said, the nervous system wants to play ball. All right, here we go. Now to the Kyrutes real fast. And Kyrute said, uh-oh, not that one. No. See, somebody thought I'd get behind and I just suddenly turn to that one and read it? No. Hey, listen, I'm no idiot. Oh, God, I'm no idiot. I'm no idiot. You believe somebody said that on the air? What was it? Somebody's mother said that her cousin said that you're not a comedian. And Kyrute said, this was a note on city food. It's sort of what we're talking about. The sandwiches they serve are the sandwiches they served. A fast is a metaphor for not eating. I don't like to be aggressive, but I too will admit that you deserve to have your little face slapped. If any of you say, well, is that connected in any way with what we're talking about? And speak of the devil, this one's not connected with what this. And Kyrute said the lungs of the secondary provide their own air. Civilized travelers carry along their own feet in their knapsack. At least you be caught alone and hungry, which is the only place that you can actually be alone and be hungry. And still on this page, the lungs of the secondary provide their own air. Only a peach grove can produce peaches, obvious enough. But any human vineyard can yield whatever is needed. But everybody else thinks, no, this information, what do we need? Religious teachings, directions for morality. I mean, that must come from somewhere else. Which is why there seems to be somewhere else. Institutions, collective wisdom, a book, someone to talk to. Except, notice, only a peach can produce a peach grove peaches. You want to look at that as being the primary world? That's not in question. Only an idiot. Now, no ordinary person would naysay that, but the rest of the sentence. But any human vineyard can produce whatever is needed. You don't believe that? Go ask a person a question. May I ask you a question? Certainly. Do you think you'll be able to answer it? Well, if it's within reason. I mean, there's nothing technical about physics or something. No, it's just about life. And oh, yeah, ask me. Well, of course, you laugh now, but when, under serious conditions, when you're out being a serious person, if that was your father, a rabbi, a priest, just a friend of yours, somebody that you have faith in, you ask, or even a stranger, if they look sane, you say, something troubles me about the nature of life. Just a guy at a bus stop. And he'll say, really? What? Well, do you mind me asking you? I'd like, no. Are you going to catch somebody ordinarily if they're sane that's going to say, well, Jesus, I never thought about that, or I don't have the least idea. Now, they may play that humility game, which I don't repeat that man's definition of humility because it was too right on. The person may preface their song and dance like saying, well, now this is just my opinion. Surprised, but they'll... But remember the rest of this sentence. Regardless of the specific The specific, knowing, knowledgeable, predictable nature of a peach grove to produce only peaches. That's where you go. That's where the primary world goes. Primary world's hungry, it goes to eat. If it was the secondary and it's hungry, it goes out to dine. Or it wants to read a book about eating. It wants to read a menu. But the primary world knows that if you want peaches, you go to a peach grove. I would like to have some sex. I think I'll go find another human. In most cases, someone of an opposite sexual human persuasion. I am hungry, I'll go eat. There's no doubt about you go where there's food. But any human vineyard can produce whatever is needed. That is the secondary world. And of course, ordinary people, being as serious as they intend to be, would say no. That, for instance, if we're going to talk something serious, an ordinary person would say, like religion, you've got to go to like a religious person. You've got to go to someone who's part of a great heritage that went back to some of the gods or the gods' brothers-in-law and it's been handed down. You've got to go to somebody that knows what they're doing. Other than this, the last part of the sentence. Any human vineyard can yield whatever's needed. That's why people have an answer. That's why people are supposed to have an answer. That's why you can ask a person, may I ask you a serious question? I'm troubled about something about the nature of man in life. Certainly, sir. Certainly, lad. Ask me. Just my opinion, perhaps. I may not be an expert, but by God, ask me. And the truth is, from one view, whatever they tell you is as good as anything. And even if it's not, you can say, well, I don't approve of that. And then the guy can say, well, I told you it's my opinion, and get screwed. And you can say, well, I think I'll go somewhere else. And you say, go somewhere else. And sure enough, you go somewhere else, and you ask somebody else. May I ask you a serious question? I just asked somebody else, and they didn't know it. Well, it's a good thing you came to me in time. Hello on audio tape. Now we got, whenever you get this, we got the audio going. Now back to you people in Florida. Hello. Got a nice letter. They're all getting passed around the Pacific Northwest now, right? Through Sharon and Kevin. Just got a nice letter from them. Plus got a nice letter, always a nice bi-weekly report from our very popular friend in Los Angeles. Stuart, you know who signed this letter. Buford Pusser and the Pusser Family Singers. I don't know. I like that so much. Plus, welcome back. We find out Lisa, I've never met her, but she's coming back now to the LA meetings. Lisa Douglas. And Stuart pointed out that she had given permission after all this time that we can make all the Green Acre jokes we want to. And Stuart even pointed out that since she was back that he was brushing up his Hank Kimball imitation. Well, not brushing it up. We don't start that, do we? Hello to everybody out there. Oh, and Bob's back in Toronto. He'd been gone for a while. I notice he's back. We're to go up there and have a party. Serious Canadians, serious music. Well, here we were on that Cairo. The lungs of the secondary provide their own air, only a peach. Oh, and we got a new Jan in Philadelphia. How about that? Does anyone want to figure the odds of that? The few people we got here in this thing, and now we got 3 different Jans. Huh? 3 different cities. I think everyone should go home and think, what is the possible metaphysical significance of that? And then immediately say, none. Lay down and cool off. Take a deep breath. The lungs of the secondary provide their own air. Hey, Jan, new Jan. Only a peach grove can produce peaches, but any human vineyard can produce whatever is needed. And in the last part, thus it is that a revolutionist isn't much concerned over whatever it is he learns or learns from, since it's all about the you-know-what. Same. Which is why, again, that there is no need, no use for plain, ordinary information in life. Because whatever I mean by that, which some of you already got a grave suspicion and some of you have seen it, it's too plain. Now, one more little view of it. Surely all of you have got some of it. But the whole idea, everywhere, of secret information, conspiracies, metaphysical, occult aspects hidden within religions, all of that. And even me in Cairo making, these little jokes and supposedly people writing in, complaining they can't understand this or it fascinates them. There's just really no demand for it. It's too plain. The whole idea of secret information is, once I start it one more time, is this is not literally true, as you know, but it's sort of literally true. Is that everybody knows what the secret information is, and it's like, spoiling a surprise birthday party. Who wants to hear about that? If the whole world stood up and said, if the whole world joined together and raised a large sum of money or something that would intrigue me, I'll use me just allegorically, assuming I know what's going on, and everybody on this planet, or at least a lot of them, got together and could really fascinate me with something, said, tell us the truth. And I started to tell them, or let's say I did, I'll make it easy. And I told them, they'd go, or no, let me build up a little more. And they said, all right, now we'll give you all this, but no, we don't want any of this kind of weird shit that we've read philosophy and religion and all that. And I said, no, I can tell you exactly what's going on now. Don't worry about dying, I'll tell you what's going on. They say, well, you're going to tell us plain and simple. You're not going to talk about guides and spirit. No. You're not going to talk about anything. I'm just going to tell you. All right. And they give me whatever it is, and they induce me to do it, and I tell them, their response is going to be, well, shit, that was too plain. Exactly. And they already suspect it. All of you suspect it. I've just had the decency to never just come right out and tell you. But a whole bunch of you, as they say in Alabama, you got strong suspects. Thus it gets, I was wrapping up that end of that cow root. That's not just a cynical statement about saying that a revolutionist doesn't really care ultimately what he learns or where he learns it because it's all about the same. It's not to discount anything or to say, well, it's no fun learning. But it is the fact that at the secondary level, that is the ordinary level where people think, they can believe that they're thinking about philosophy, metaphysics, cosmic affairs, scientific affairs, and they're eating their own feet. And everybody knows it. Which is the only thing left to appeal to religion is to believe that there's some feet somewhere else. Right? Yeah, I may be eating on my feet or my rabbi's feet or my priest's feet, but in some way he's connected with God's feet. That is, that there's somebody outside this closed system. I know we're eating our own feet and just kind of fooling around here, but by God, there's some real feet somewhere. I hope. Well, I guess hope's a hobby too. The secret, the conspiracies, the ideas of hidden knowledge is simply that nobody wants to know how plain it is. And it's no fault of theirs, because if it could all be done, which it wouldn't be done, and anybody knew what it was, nobody would do it. But if you could suddenly tell everybody, all right, does the whole world really want to know? In fact, never mind, I don't want anything, so you're not even going to have to pay me. I don't know whether that'd help it or not, but you tell the whole world, you announce this real large, I'm talking about real large bullhorn. Does everybody want to know what's going on? Now, let's assume that a whole lot of people go, yeah. Now, I'm talking about you really want to know. I'm not here to sell anything, and it's not about religion. Would you like to know what the hell's going on right here? And they go, yeah. One more time. If you did it, but you couldn't do it, and if you knew how to do it, you wouldn't do it. But if you did it, and they all heard it, you do know what would happen. Forget the LA freeway. This would be a gigantic pileup, the likes of which could never be repeated. Everything would just fall apart. There's the conspiracy, so that in a sense, people know that. Not in any meaningful way, but they know that they don't know. And that's not a trick, because you can tell people. You can look people right in the eye, a stranger. You can be sitting around having coffee with somebody and look them right in the eye and almost tell them what life's about. And they'll look right off. Now, sometimes they'll get this heavy. They'll do things maybe like scratch their jaw and say, you're probably right. And so it's been nice chatting with you. Of course, they say that, but they didn't think it was real nice. They just thought it was kind of... They were glad to get out of there with their clothes still on. They were glad they didn't go home like that guy was trying to describe my figure, guy that his psyche his personality been shredded, and he goes home looking like one of those things from a B-grade zombie movie. He goes in, his wife and his family and all his loved ones, his community, goes, "What in the hell happened to you?" For those of you old enough, like the Mummy from the movies back in the 40s, but it looked like, his wrappings coming loose. And you'd be staggering around. That would be a man, if it was possible for a man to accidentally have a real metaphysical experience, to wake up, to see the cosmos, to reach the moment of true enlightenment. If an ordinary man could do that, he'd be easy to spot, because I've just described him. You'd look out, it'd be like it looked like a man who had been in the world's worst car wreck, fell out of a 2,000-story building, but he's still alive some way, and he's just staggering down the highway. That'd be the man that, if you want to look for an ordinary man that saw the light, there you'd be. It'd be and to himself, he might be thinking, "I always wanted to know the truth and the secret, but damn, I didn't want to know it this way." And Kyrut said, when he didn't know exactly what to say, this one man would often substitute something else. We haven't changed the subject, believe it or not. And everybody who heard this went, "Hey, he's talking about us." That is, the self-creating secondary world, the world where lungs bring along their own air. It's where ants bring along their own picnics. It's where the guy who said he didn't have to worry about who's behind door number 2, he knew he was. And Kyrut took it a little further. That's true. And Kyrut gave you 2 steps after that. You remember that was a reference to one from Friday, but this guy said that he didn't have to worry about who was behind number 2. Remember that was one of the prizes that somebody was going to get? The washer and the dryer and the match set of eye gougers. A free trip to anywhere but here. And whoever was behind door number 2, you got it all. And this guy pointed out tonight that, hey, he didn't have to guess, wonder about who's behind door number 2, because he knew he was. And then Kyrut gave you 2 corollaries. The first one was that everybody's behind door number 2, which has a certain kind of insider, rebellious metaphysical significance. You figure it out. And then he gave you the more advanced, competitive, comprehensive corollary, which is, you kind of changed it, that there would be no door number 2 if it weren't for man, because there'd be no alternative. Dogs don't have an alternative. Chimpanzees, trees, there is no door number 2. There's door number. You understand? They don't have a door number. There is no alternative, as only man does. Should I ask myself, was that the last I was going to say about that one? You remember that was one the guy didn't know what to say, he would substitute something else. That's where we were, in case you lost track. And Kyrut said the secondary world is not about freedom, and in the primary, such would be suicide. In other words, there is no such thing. Thus, the local dreams of a universal that never was. This is right back to the heart. I was going to try to end up with this one, but somebody's already asked for it. This is, in a sense, a wrap of what I started out talking about tonight. The dreams of everybody. The obvious one being religious dreams. People believing that someday I'll die and rejoin the great cosmic force, or I'll go live with God and Elvis in the sky. And a variation of that is the reason that I'm not happy and satisfied now and I cannot scratch exactly where I itch is because I am separated from the Godhead. I am separated from the creative spark that made us all. May I read again? The secondary world is not about freedom, and in the primary, such would be suicide. I can call it suicide, or you just simply got to see there is no question of freedom in the primary world. Right? That's not open to debate. That if a chimpanzee does try to act free, the chimpanzee decides, I'm tired of walking, I'm going to drive a car. Hey, he's going to hurt himself real bad. Well, there's every chance in the world he's going to kill himself. I mean, he's going to have a wreck right off the bat. Where do you think? So I'll be free, by God, I'll eat an oyster. And hell, he'll die. Only a human could eat an oyster and live. At least a decent, right-thinking chimpanzee, if he eats one, at least he'll die from humiliation, if not from some physical. So, the secondary world is not about freedom. And in the primary, it would be suicidal if it did exist. The punchline of this Kairut, thus the local dreams of a universal that never was. That the mind dreams that at one time we lived in the Elysian fields. At one time we lived in paradise. We lived in the Garden of Eden where everything was perfect. It is literally, not because of religious, not because of man's ignorance. It is when the local must dream of the universal, it's always of a universal that never was. Because the local cannot picture what it was. But notice how it keeps things running. That in a sense, this is the original paradigm for the carrot and the stick. Except it's so much better than that because there's the universal sitting on the wagon, the carrot and the stick are the whip, except man got no idea what's going on. That dreams of, oh boy, if I could only live where they didn't whip me and make me run. Well, there's a place like that. It's known as Forest Lawn in some places. It's known as non-existence. Every dream that the local has, the universal, is a dream of that which never was. But notice the beauty of it. What if you could? What if what man, where he was trying to scratch, actually existed? That you had your choice and they said, all right, we got door number 1, 2, and 3. Well, Jesus, sooner or later somebody would win, right? Or maybe you got real fast and you could put on nose and glasses that keep showing up before they could kill you and you get in the contest several times. You'd eventually get it, right? Because it's not there. But notice, it keeps everyone playing. If you could dream of a universal that was, no, I don't go into that. No need to go into that, is there? And there was a follow-up to that, by the way. Remember, the last part, thus the local dreams of universal that never was, and Kairut Preston, thus the local dreams of universal that never was, while the revolutionist in the midst forges a new one. That is, in the midst of everybody else dreaming, including yourself, of universal that never was. Then you're forging a new one, and at least you get hung in religion. A revolution is somebody, whoever they call themselves, got involved with such as this, at whatever time and place. They're attempting to pursue a dream that never existed. It's not just that paradise or Garden of Eden didn't exist. I just picked that up. The revolution, as you dream of it, never existed. That's the reason it gets people going with it. So, hey, whatever this is, they can call it a revolution or exotic knowledge or something, but I know what it is. And then you fill in some kind of blank. You think, this will put me back to the point that I can talk to the gods. Or it'll take me to the point that man used to be, where I can read people's minds. Where I can pick their pocket and they'll never know it. The local always dreams of universal that never was, while the revolutionist is attempting in the midst of this, in the midst of him, not everybody else. It's not that everybody else is an idiot and dreaming of a life that never was. It's you too, and not the group. That you are dreaming of a universal that never was, you're in the midst of such dreams, and whatever real revolutionist would be is in some way having to forge a new one, which is simply, if you want to, in a pretty electromagnetically direct manner, is you're attempting to quit dreaming of that which never was. I know none of us like that kind of negative, because that sounds like, well, that means I should lose some weight. I can do better than that. That you're attempting to free yourself from the dreams of a universal, of a past, of a history, of a future that never was. Because if it was, it'd be deadly. If it was, you couldn't dream of it. The only way you can dream of Eden is that it didn't exist. Because if it existed, speaking figuratively, you wouldn't dream of it. I mean, somebody could tell you, and it was like I was trying to tell you, that you can almost sit around a coffee shop with a stranger and tell them the truth, and they go, huh, well, been nice chatting with you. That's what it would be, that if it actually existed as man believed, then he'd go, huh, first time he heard about it. Did you know that one time we were, can you imagine what it would be to be a perfect Jew? Oh, yes. Well, at one time you were a perfect Jew, and I don't know, we just ran amok. Huh. That's neat. Well, been nice chatting with you. But see, that's not the way the institutions work in life. That is not the way that life keeps things running. Because what if that was the truth? Who's going to tell you that? And if they did, you do notice if you went, and there it is, this large edifice. And of course, in Albanian, that has a erotic meaning, but I'm assuming that we're not being picked up around the Adriatic coast, so I don't have to apologize or explain it to the children. You see this large edifice? And their job is to explain and answer large questions. But what do they answer? The great eternal message of silence. And Cox said the local is like, the word in this sentence is sun, S-U-N. You just like take an easy shot, like the life force of our solar system. Just under our local conditions, you know, it's like the center of everything, literally, as you all know. Photosynthesis and other neat things. Getting your hair bleached out in the summer, all important stuff. All right, the sentence says the local is like a bucket bringing up the universal sun from down in a well. And one guy said, I am a well. And in this case, at least, you think there was some unstated modifier in there. The man is stating correctly, because in humans is the secondary world brought up. It is a continual process. It is lungs furnishing their own air. It is a well, and you are the well. And it's bringing up the center of the secondary reality. It's only ordinary people that go, well, God created this. Some forces, the Big Bang somewhere. In fact, if we had enough money and got any bigger telescopes and equipment, we could look and see it. Well, nobody asked me, but I sure could save them a lot of money. I mean, I could tell them in such a way you don't even have to stay on your tippy toes. I mean, you don't have to shield your eyes like this, and get up on a hill and try to look off, or even a hillock. But see, that's too simple. Now, wait a minute. No, if we're going to see the Big Bang, we have got to look. We have got to look afar. Perhaps even as far as Rome, yeah, probably further. How about Tibet? Yeah. Maybe about Ceylon. China, yeah. How about this? We can get better. Let's look at China. Oh, how about 4,000 years? Oh, yes. Now we're talking. Oh, yeah. God forbid that you should just turn around and look. No. No, we need more equipment than that. I know you do, sir, and it's been nice chatting with you. One old synapse told a younger one, it is the looking over the shoulder that creates the shoulder. We'll shortly, there's several things in version that can be done of that. We'll pick it up some other time shortly. And Kyrut said in conclusion, we'll leave it with this one, the local is to the universal as captivity is to an unknown freedom. See, that's the wrap-up of that tonight, is the unknown. Not that the others are wrong. It's not an attack on, everybody else thinks that heaven, or living a Christian life, or living a truly Orthodox Jewish life, or being a real Hindu, or being a real philosopher, being a real humanist would be a freedom. And it's not. Which is the only reason that people will say and believe that they pursue it. It is not. Any freedom that has been named doesn't qualify for this because it's local. And it's not freedom because that's not what the local world, that's not what the secondary world's about. It can't be. So, it would be two. Well, I was going to read it verbatim one more time. That the unknown is the key word, is the local is the universal as captivity is to an unknown freedom. Because anything that you can say that you want to be free from is just a hobby. I mean, you're just playing with yourself mentally. There's nothing wrong with it. But anytime a man says, well, what I want to do is be free from, and fill in a blank, then it's just a hobby. Literally. I don't care if it's religious, philosophical, sociological, scientific, fiscal. Whatever a man says he wants to be free from is just a dream. It's just smoke. It's just air in the lungs. Because if there is any freedom, it has got to be unknown freedom. And after that, as always, in good, anything approaching real non-polar based thought, you can say, well, wait a minute, be more specific. Hey, screw you. So you're not listening. Unknown. Yeah, but how about so-and-so? Well, as soon as you say it, no. Yeah, but what I want to do is be free from asking dumb questions. Well, you're really going about the right way. Really? You think so? Where is that man whose part of his job was to keep an eye out for Captain Irony? Should we leave on what was less than a specific note? An intellectual semi-quaver? Good night.